On the top part of your paper, it doesn't matter where, put your name. Good, you're halfway done.
112.
Okay, now, what I want you to do is think about what writing a narrative means. It means telling a story of some kind. And these today, what we're going to do are personal narratives. They're going to be memories, writing about something that happened to you. I know you've done this before in your life already in school. You've written personal narratives probably. And I'm not sure what kind you've written, but I'd like you to take your paper and number 1 through 10. Just make a little list. Here's mine. Mine's going to look like this. So I'm ready to go. If yours looks anything like this, you'll be ready to go too. Perfect. Okay. Underneath that, draw a big fat line all the way across the whole page. Big horizontal line. Good. Now, at the top of that list, the title of this list is going to be Quick List. So this is your quick list of memories. I misspelled list. I put an O instead of an I. That means quick lost.
I'm lost.
Quick list of memories. What happens if you misspell something? It doesn't matter. This is just for us, okay? If it's messy, it doesn't matter. So now, I'm going to help you think of some ideas of things to write about. And before we get started, let's talk about a memory, what span of time it's going to be. These memories need to be tiny little moments in your life, not long periods of time. Not a year, not an era, but just that big. Something that happened really quickly. One moment, like if you took a picture of a moment, just that fast, okay? So, if I call out some topics, you guys think of it that brings any memories to your mind, and if you get some, write them down. Just some words or phrases to tell you what you're thinking of, okay? So for numbers 1 and 2 and 3, can you think of any moments in your life that were really important to you for some weird reason, for some any reason? Some moments in your life that were just important. The little snapshot moments that were important to you for any reason at all. Just jot them down for right now. You'd be thinking to yourself, oh, how about the time that, and write that down, whatever comes to mind. Is anybody having any trouble thinking up 3? You are? Okay. Well, would anybody be willing to tell us an example of something you put down? What's one example? The time that what?
I spun a basketball on my finger.
When you did what?
I spun a basketball on my finger.
Okay, that was a moment you'll probably remember, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I remember a time when we moved to this place and I got my first look at how the place looked. I will never forget that. What kind of thing did you write down?
I wrote the time I ranked first on the Explore test.
On the what test?
The Explore test.
When you ranked first on the Explorer test, did they announce it? Did your classmates hear your name and stuff? You felt like, yeah, it went in and it's part of your memories. Do those help anybody think of some other topics?
Me.
Okay, good. Write them down, jot them down. We're going to go on to the next category. What's one of yours, Matthew?
When I learned to ride a bike.
You remember the day when you stayed up? That makes me remember one too. If that makes you remember something, write it down. Unless you already have your 3. You could add it to the bottom if you wanted to make 11. Okay, let's do 4, 5, and 6 now. And if you have to leave some blank, that's okay. So for the next 3, can you think of a moment when you found yourself so proud of somebody else? Not yourself, somebody else. You watched them do something and it just made you feel like so proud of them you could hardly stand it. Think of 3 moments and write those down. Okay, will you share us one now?
Well, one of them was I was proud of my friend Abigail when she was one of the kids of my school that got her poem published, and she was going to Washington, D.C. to see which kid got the best poem in the district.
Nuh-uh. She got to go to Washington after writing a poem?
Got a $75 check.
And her poem, did you read her poem?
Oh, her poem? Really? As soon as it's published, I'm going to read it. I didn't read it yet.
I bet the suspense is killing you. That is so awesome. Who else would like to share one thing that happened to their friend? Tell us about yours.
It's about...
Or to somebody.
It's about my mom. My mom gave birth to Andres.
Is that...
He's my little brother.
How old is Andres now?
6,
And how old are you?
9. I'm good.
So you were 3 and you remember that very clearly when she had a baby and it was for your new brother?
A little bit.
You do? How exciting. Anybody else want to share one? I will. I watched my daughter sing a song when she was a 7th grader, and I was real nervous for her. She stepped out on the stage and she sang, and the audience went with her voice and then started clapping real crazy. And when they started clapping, I just started, that's so pretty. It was ridiculous. But that's when I remember. Okay, let's do 7 and 8. For number 7 and 8, can you think of 2 very clear memories you have eating some kind of food? Some specific food. Maybe it was the most delicious, maybe it was the most horrible, maybe it was something funny about the food, but I want 2 food memories. Can you think of 2 food memories?
Yes.
Now for 9 and 10, for the last 2, can you think about 2 things that you owned but you don't have them anymore? 2 things that used to be yours, and maybe you loved them and maybe you hated them, but they were yours. Maybe they were toys or pillows or something, but they used to be yours and they're gone now. 2 things that you used to have that you don't have anymore. Just write them down. Were those last ones easy to think of? The food and the things you used to have? You know what those are? Those are going to be for our expository writing. And any one of the first ones are going to be for our narrative writing. How do you like that? Okay, so we just now did a quick list for both kinds of writing. Now, everybody need to stretch out your fingers? Okay, take a deep breath. And now we're going to write what is called a kernel essay for the narrative paper. We're going to write a narrative, a story, a memory, and we're going to do it in a kernel essay form. That means I'm going to ask you questions, and you're going to just write 1 sentence to answer each one of the questions. And that way I'm just going to guide you through writing a kernel essay. Okay, have any of y'all written a kernel essay before? No? Not a one of you? Good, this will be a first. Okay, well, under this line, tell you what, let's do. Let's don't do anything. Everybody get another piece of paper. That's what let's do. Fold this in half so you've got your quick list in front of you, and now take a clean piece of paper. Okay? So you've got your quick list out in front of you. That's like a bank. It's like a bank full of money, because those things on that list can provide you with topics for anything that comes up in the next 20 years. Really could. They're not the only things you could write about, but those right there will take care of anything you need for the next couple of years of your life. I'm sure they would. Now, I want you to pick out one of those memories between numbers 1 and 6 that you'd like to write about today. And when you get one chosen, just circle it like this. Just circle the number. Circle your 7, and then put it right back up in front of you. Now, on this page, what we're going to do is write your Kernel essay. So I want you to fold it like this, just about, a couple of inches down. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Yes, 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 yes. Good. And put the flat back up. Good. We're going to put structures there and the kernel down here. So where you made your crease, put a line. Good. Under the line, write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and skip some space. So you're going to spread your numbers out so you could write as much of a big long sentence for each one as you wanted to, or short sentences. So now I'm going to ask you 5 questions about your memory. What's your memory? Do you already remember it or you forget it? It's whatever you circled over here. I'm pulling my flap down and writing what's my memory on the top of the flap. You can do that too. In other words, it looks like this. When you fold it down, it says minus. When Matilda was born, that was my daughter. I remember that. But it's not going to be part of this. But if I forget what I'm writing about, there it is. There's my topic. You can put your topic on top of that flap. Good job. Okay, now open it up. Do you students know the difference between a collection of words and a complete sentence? I hope you do. Do you know what the fragment is and what a sentence is if you hear them?
A sentence has a subject and a predicate.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a technical definition. Do you know when you hear them? Tell me, is this a sentence or not a sentence? In the car.
No.
Okay, it's not. How about we went to the house?
Yes.
It is. How about he left?
No.
Yes, it is.
Oh.
I tricked you. It was short, but it still tells you something. Yep, somebody did something or something happened. It's a subject and a verb. Okay, so if you get a fragment accidentally on these next parts, that's okay, we'll fix them, all right? But your job is to write a sentence to answer every question. So think back to this moment, this memory. It's almost like a tiny little movie, right? It's almost like a very short movie in your brain. It's a little story of something that happened. Now holding your paper very still and flat, open it up for number 1. Where were you? Make it a whole sentence. You're probably going to want to start with I was or we were. Number 2, what was the first thing that happened in that little memory? What was the first thing that happened? Number 3, what was the next thing that happened? Just in one sentence, just tell what happened next. Number 4, what do you expect 4 is going to be?
What happened next?
You think it's what happened last? What was the last thing that happened? Good prediction. So remind me if this is right. Number 1 was where you were. Number 2 is what happened first. Number 3 is what happened next. Number 4 is the last thing that happened. And that takes us to number 5, right? So now for number 5, here's what I'd like you to do. When you're ready, put your pens down. And think about this. You have now, in these 4 sentences, the story of that moment is already captured. It's already there. But now I want you to think back about how that moment actually changed you as a human being. Because there were some things about life that you understood at that moment a little bit differently than you'd ever really understood it before. Something sank into you then that helped change you to be who you are right now. So what I want you to do is think of what's one life lesson that that moment gave you. What's one thing that you really, I get it now, that you really got. And for number 5, write down, I've learned that, and then finish your sentence. Write down, I've learned that. You've all written a kernel essay now. Let's look at what structure we used. This is the structure. It's like a plan for what we wrote. It's called memory reflection. This is one way to write a memory, by telling first where you were, what happened first, what happened next, what happened last, and a life lesson, or as you said, something that we learned. Those boxes right now, I want you to copy off right here into the very top part. Exactly the way I put them. And if you want to change off your color of ink, you can use one of the markers in the boxes. If you'd like to do something like what I did, up to you. Just make sure you write down those words in there so that you'll have a copy of this text structure. Do you know what text is? What's text?
Story.
Yeah, a story could be text. Right on here, which side has text on it? The left side or the right?
Right.
This side is full of text. So what's another way to say what text is? It's words. That's right. So if you're singing a song, it's got a melody and some text. And the text we call lyrics when it's sung. But this is one way to structure some text when you're trying to tell a memory. So you each one wrote one sentence for each one of those boxes. And that's called a kernel essay. A kernel essay. So now I want to know, was it difficult writing your kernel essay, or was it pretty easy?
Easy.
It was easy, right? What for you, Matthew?
Easy.
It was easy? Was it hard for anybody? Okay. Let me ask you this. Did you put short sentences or did you put lots and lots of details? It's not a trick question. You put short sentences? Because you had to. I only gave you a second and only one piece of paper for each one of these. So you wrote little sentences. I saw you writing and writing. Some of them ended up kind of long. But it's really summary of the memory, isn't it? You didn't put any details in. You didn't have a chance to. So what's missing?
Details.
Tons of details. Did you have a chance to tell what anybody said during it? No. Did you say what anything looked like? No. What anybody's faces were doing? No. What it smelled like? No. Did you tell any of the seriously detailed action? No. You just basically told what happened. So what you have is a kernel essay. Now, everybody got that? You all have that copied down? That you could keep forever, and you could use that as a way to tell a story. Ooh, that's pretty. I like how you did those. Pretty colors. Everybody hold yours up and show them to each other. Just let's see them around the room, what they look like. We hold it up just like this. Let's see them. Good. Will you make sure and put the title Memory Reflection on there? Hold yours up again. Did you write down the words that are in each box? You wrote what happened first, what happened next. You left off the what happened part, right? Well, go ahead and add it in there, because if you're looking at that later, you might remember, but you might not. Good. Awesome. Now, the only way for us to know what you wrote and how good it is, how well it works, is to hear it out loud. Who will read your kernel essay first?
Me.
Okay. What's it about?
It's about when Andres was born.
Okay. Let's hear.
I lived in a trailer park when my mom was pregnant. I realized she was pregnant. I had a new baby brother, and I knew I would treasure it that day. I learned that there was a circle of life.
Nice. Really and truly? That's what you got from that day? A circle of life? What does that mean?
That means from an adult to teenager years, then to an adult, and soon they'll have their own children, and the cycle begins again and again.
Wow, that's a lot to absorb when you're little. And now, who else would like to read theirs? Annalie, okay, let's hear yours.
How I learned how to play basketball. I was at the gym. I got the basketball. I shot the ball in the basket. I finally learned how to play basketball. I've learned that basketball isn't that hard anymore, and that it took a lot of practice.
Good job. Next, who are we going to hear from?
When my dad graduated college after learning to walk again. I was seated in the STC auditorium with my family. 2, one of the college professors was calling names of graduates. 3, my dad's name was called and everyone was excited. 4, we filed out of the auditorium with my grandparents for the surprise. 5, I've learned that obstacles may stand in the way, but anyone can overcome if they believe in themselves.
How old were you on that day?
I was
About?
9, 8 or 9.
Uh-huh. And of course there's a whole lot of that story that you didn't tell, because you just alluded to the idea that he had just learned to walk again.
Yes.
So there's a whole big part that we don't know about, that, you know, if you start right then watching him graduate and tell details of flashbacks and other things as you're writing that, oh my gosh, what an amazing memory to write. Good job.
Thank you.
What's your memory?
The time I made it for captain for Robert Vela High School, the new high school. That's, yeah. Okay. I was at Freddie Gonzalez Elementary, which is where the tryouts were being held because the high school isn't done yet. 2, the first thing that was going like through my body, my stomach was in knots and I felt like I was going to throw up. 3, I looked up to see my number on the paper with captain written right next to it. 4, I was jumping and yelling and I actually started crying of joy. 5, I've learned that not to doubt myself just because I was going against upperclassmen.
That must have been a moment that you'll never forget.
Yeah.
Especially if you felt like throwing up just before that moment, and then we saw your name. And did you feel like throwing up after that moment too? Like when you saw your name, did you still feel?
No, it was like relief, yeah.
Like your whole body changed feelings, right?
Yeah.
This is the time when my poem was published. I was at school. My class was checking our poems. My teacher was going to tell the class some good news. She told the class that 15 of the kids got published. I learned that it's good to be an author.
High five. Good for you. I didn't know you got a poem published too.
Yeah, there's 21 kids in my class. Not all of them got published. It was sad, actually.
So yours is a sad memory.
Sorta.
What's your memory?
When I took my first tax test,
Okay.
I was in the classroom. I got butterflies in my stomach and the teacher handed me the test. My fingers started shaking and I couldn't write. I finished my test and was so happy. I've learned that the only thing you can do in a situation like that is to try your best.
I got the nervousness of the test just from listening to you read. Students, today, right now, we're going to be writing an expository piece of writing, which means when you explain how you feel about something or you explain how something works. So it's different from a personal narrative. A personal narrative is what happened already, and expository writing is what happens right now, what happens, how things work. So I would like for you to decide for me from your quick list. You guys help me vote on this. We're going to either do one of the food things you wrote about or one of the things you used to have. So make a decision. We're going to vote on these two categories, okay? All those that would rather write about the food. And all those that would rather write about something that you used to have. That's pretty even split. I think there were more food votes. We're going to go with the food. Pick out one of your two food items and put the name of it right here. Copy what it was that you had, your food memory. Copy it right over here. Right here on the flap. So when you hold up your paper, there's your topic on the front. All right? Now, when you do this, draw a line. Again, oops. Draw a line similar to that. And number 1 through 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to ask you 6 things about that food moment, and you write one whole sentence for each one. Everybody ready? 6. This time there are 6. I'm going to give you the first words in each sentence, and you write those words down and then finish the sentence with whatever's true about that memory, okay? And then I'm going to write them up here on the board at the same time. Number 1 starts with, I remember when I had, and finish the sentence. I remember when I had, what? Some food thing. I remember it right. It sounds like you're talking about the thing you lost. But you're talking about the food item. Number 1 is, I remember when I had a bite of sushi. It would be mine. Yeah, finish it with what your food memory is. Okay? I remember when, you might want to say ate instead of had. That's fine too. I remember when I ate or drank. Number 2, ready? It had the most, and then finish that sentence. Everybody put a period on your sentence, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Number 3, it also had, number 4, before I had it, number 5, that's why Read your previous sentence, and then your next one is, that's why, and so, right, and so, and so, I have questions for you. This kernel essay now is all about some kind of food that you have eaten, that you like, that you picked out,
That you hated.
or that you hated. Some food memory that you remember as being really distinctive, really unusual. And instead of just telling the story what happened first and second and last, like the last one we did, this one is really more focused on that food. It more describes it, and it talks about the impact of how you feel about it now, or what you think now looking back, and what it caused in you, which is more of an explanation. Does everyone see that? Okay, so this is an expository writing kernel essay. We're going to, after a little while, we're going to add some details to this to make it expanded more, and not just the kernel with just 6 sentences. But first, would you take a moment and copy down that structure above your kernel so that you'll all have a copy of what the structure says. Do you know why I put the word food in parentheses and possession right after it? Because we could have used this structure talking about that thing that you used to have that you lost. We could use the very same structure on it. On a possession, not just on a food. Isn't that weird to know? That these same sentence beginnings could work very well for that thing that you were talking about that you used to have. But you wouldn't say ate. Because if it was a blanket you lost, you wouldn't say, I remember when I ate my blanket.
Why ate my blanket?
You wouldn't say that. You said, I remember when I had. Okay, we are just about ready to hear some kernel essays. Okay, who'd like to read? Who'll share with us? Felix, you have a problem or a question about this?
Yeah, number 5, that's why it doesn't really tie in with,
It doesn't fit?
yeah, it doesn't really fit.
Okay, you know what we should do then is probably listen to your kernel. And would you like to just leave that one out? Does it make sense when you skip that one and just go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 6? Oh, then just cross it out. Yeah. If there's a part of this structure that doesn't work, then we change it and make it work. Okay, good. Then let's hear yours, okay?
Time I ate at Big Daddy Burgers. I remember when I ate at Big Daddy Burgers, it had the most flavor a burger could have. It also had ketchup, pickles, and cheese, my favorite. Before I had it, I just came back from my baseball game. And so, Big Daddy Burgers are the best burgers in town.
You know, I didn't even notice anything was missing. Did it sound like anything was missing to you guys?
Number 5 was missing.
It was, but it didn't, if you listen to it, it didn't seem like it had a hole in it. So I think that was really fine. Good. What was yours about?
I'm making my birthday cake.
Making your birthday cake? Okay, read it loud enough for us to hear it, if you would.
I remember when I had the opportunity to make my birthday cake. It had the most horrible decoration ever. It also had a bit of melting Cool Whip on top. Before I had it, I thought it would taste good, which it didn't. That's why I told myself I shouldn't eat it anymore. So that's why I never touch a pan to prepare food.
You never do what? Would you read your last sentence one more time?
That's why I never touch a pan to prepare food again.
And you were the one that made it?
Uh-huh.
And it was your birthday?
Mm-hmm.
And the Cool Whip was melting?
Yes.
And it tasted yucky?
Yes.
And looked gross?
Uh-huh.
That is a perfect essay. Good job.
Thank you.
We have a very similar cake baking memory. Yes, it was horrible. Matthew, what's your memory?
When I had a giant pizza.
Let's hear.
I remember when I ate at Russo's Pizza. It had the most pepperonis I've ever seen. It also had a lot of cheese. Before I hadn't eaten all day. That's why I had 2 pieces. And so after that, I didn't eat for the rest of the day.
typically American male essay. You said exactly what you wanted and not a syllable more. That was so concise, wasn't it? He did not babble on and on about the pepperoni. It had a lot of pepperoni. That's why I ate 2 pieces. He was very concise. It's good. Do you know what you would do when it's time to add details? Do you have any idea about that? Totally in the dark? Okay, well, you know what? We're going to do that in a little while. Hey, Leah, what's yours about?
Rod's Huge Burgers. I remember when I had a bite of Rod's Huge Burger. It had the most flavor. It also had lots of grease. Before I had it, I was thinking how big it would be. And so when I finished, I thought I would never eat again.
Good.
The first time I tried pizza. I remember when I first tried my first bite of pizza. It had the most pepperoni ever. Before I had it, I thought it would be totally gross. That's why I forced myself to eat it. And so now I think I should have tried it before I judged it.
Good. How old were you then? Was it when you were in elementary school?
I'm still in elementary school.
Was it during that time that you've been in school? Young attorney, sir?
I don't know, I think I was like 3 or 4.
So this was in a restaurant, or at home?
I think it was to order, to go. And then I remember trying it at home, I think.
So it was like a delivery box that somebody
Yeah.
picked up or brought to the house, and you're eating it at home, but it was a restaurant's pizza? Mm-hmm. So that could have been as a preschooler, or it could have been already after you started school. But either way, you remember your first bites of pizza. Isn't that interesting? So you probably have a memory of what you thought it was going to be like before you bit it?
My dad tells me that I have a photographic memory because I remember like everything I see.
Wow. That must be really helpful when you're at school. Derek, what did you write about?
I wrote about the first time I tasted, I don't know if anybody will know what it is, but I know what it is, Hamburger Helper. Does anybody know what that is?
I love that. I love that.
Read it to us.
All right. I remember when I ate Hamburger Helper. It had the most awesome flavor. It also had macaroni and cheese and meat. Before I ate it, I thought it was really gross. And I tasted it and I liked it. That's why I love it. And so I like it and I will always like it for the rest of my life.
Good job. You know what? You should send a copy of that to the Hamburger Helper Company and see if they send you some money or some free Hamburger Helper. You said yours is part yucky, part good and delicious?
No, not much delicious.
Oh, let's hear what you did.
Well, this one, I'm probably either 2 or 3 years old. So I remember that I had ate broccoli. It had the most disgusting flavor. It also had green stuff. I don't know why, but it was boiled or something. Ew. Before I had it, I was nervous. That's why I hate broccoli. And so I almost never ate broccoli again. But when I mean almost, I mean when I was like 5 or 6 years old, my dad forced me to eat broccoli. I was like, can I have ice cream instead?
And he said no.
No.
I love it. I love the broccoli memory, but I was still a little confused about how old you were then.